But here's something that men need to hear. What is a husband? Nobody knows. A man committed, a guy joins a Major League Baseball team, he's committed. A husband is the only creature in the world whose entire definition of self depends on someone else's happiness.
I had this moment not too long ago where sort of all my basic needs were taken care of for the rest of my life. Like it was like a moment where I realized that, and I had that thing of like, let's, we could not let's, but we could sit back now and relax and do nothing and, have that picturesque retirement that people sort of think of. And it was the most probably anxiety-ridden thought, like the idea of that and not having purpose or having a vision or mission to work towards felt awful. And I think a lot of people think that's what they want as well. I want this, I want to be sipping mojitos on the beach for the rest of my life and I'll be happy. And I'm curious as to, are you almost saying that purpose cures anxiety?
Exactly right. And this also is how we destroyed marriage. The only reason to get married is because you want to be more than what you are. But we've reduced marriage to getting what you want. If you're thinking that by getting married, you will have your needs satisfied, this is not a marriage. This is not going to be pleasant. It's going to be abusive. And you might be better off without it. The whole idea of marriage is, what can I do that is bigger than me? The simple answer is start a family. It's bigger than you. You become responsible to your family. You're not an individual. Say you're not single. You're not an individual anymore. Now you're a clan. You're a tribe. You're a community. Small, but significant. So the purpose and the desire for marriage should be, I got to be more than just me. If you just want to be you and get all the fun out of it, don't get married. Don't do this to anybody. It's mean.
If we were to take children or family out of the equation, we're talking just about be more than what you are as a couple. What does that look like? Is that in terms of trying to reach a higher purpose or a bigger goal or impact more people? Like, what does that look like?
I think the first benefit is I stop being a narcissist. If it's just me, that's narcissism. If everyone in the world exists for my pleasure, that is narcissism. To say, no, I need to be there for someone else. I need to be more than just me. That is the most vulnerable and the most humble impulse or instinct. I need to be more than me. So just as we wake up in the morning thinking, what can I do for God? You got to wake up in the morning thinking, what can I do for my spouse? If you're not thinking like that, you're probably fighting.
Have you seen the movement might be a strong word, but sort of this conversation around the idea of the roles in marriage, and like a woman is supposed to do X, Y, and Z, and a man is supposed to do X, Y, and Z. Is there a point to that? Is there anything to that of serving your role, or is there any sort of not fact, but truth to that?
Well, it's the same dynamic as in our relationship with God. We all intend to be good. Every guy gets married intends to be the best husband in the world. And every woman intends to be the best wife. Somehow it doesn't happen so frequently. Where do we go wrong? Because we're making up as we go what it takes to be a good husband. The guy is being a good husband, according to what he believes is a good husband. Now, his wife happens to think that a good husband does very different things. Well, then she's crazy. And there you go.
So it's all, again, down to that question, similarly to waking up and saying, how can I serve God? It's how can I serve my partner?
And the only way to know is by asking.
Communication, yeah.
Don't make it up.
So what's the difference between being in a relationship versus being married?
It could be that emotionally there's no difference. If it's a really good relationship, there's no difference. You're totally committed, you're totally enmeshed, you're totally stuck on each other. And if you should ever separate, it'll feel like an amputation. Exactly like a marriage. But usually people who don't get married and have a relationship are careful to make sure that they don't get that entangled. Otherwise, you might as well be married. So you say, let's live together, but not get married. What are you doing? What are you protecting? What are you holding back on? Nothing? Then you're married. You don't have a wedding, but you're married. So marriage creates a bond between a husband and wife that will feel like an amputation if they ever get separated. Amputation means a piece of me is gone. Now, that can happen in any relationship. But then you're married. You don't have any freedom because you didn't have a wedding party. You're just as stuck on each other. So why not be married? It's not a real relationship if it's optional. There is no love without vulnerability. If losing you doesn't destroy me, then I don't love you. I enjoy you, taking advantage of you. I don't love you. Which is another thing about religion. The religion that says God loves you very much, but he has no skin in the game. If you don't merge with him, it's all your loss. He couldn't care less, but he loves you very much. Love without vulnerability is manipulation. People are afraid to get married because they don't want to be that vulnerable.
I would say that is definitely something that comes up in conversation when we talk about marriage. This idea of not getting married is more prevalent now. I would say there's a large portion of people, but I do tend to agree. I think some of it is leaving the door open to make sure that there is an exit route or some kind of way out. But also the idea of vulnerability. If losing you doesn't destroy me, I really like that quote because it's really powerful and requires, stepping into a relationship, huge amounts of vulnerability. To put yourself on the chopping board like that is really, really tough. What's the introduction of God into that equation when we talk about marriage, particularly?
Well, if you can't surrender to a relationship, it is not a relationship. It's just bartering for goods. You give me this, I'll give you that. It's not a relationship. If you don't surrender to it, which makes you vulnerable, then it's not a real relationship. You don't surrender to God. I'll talk to you later. I have no time right now, and that's not a relationship. And the same with a marriage. But here's something that men need to hear. What is a husband? Nobody knows. Ask around. What is a husband? Oh, it's a man committed to a relationship. A man committed A guy joins a Major League Baseball team, he's committed. That makes him a husband. You go into a partnership in a business, you're committed. Commitment is not a description of a husband because there are many different commitments. What is a husband? A husband is the only creature in the world whose entire definition of self depends on someone else's happiness. There's no one else. That's purely husband. A wife whose husband is not happy is concerned, not devastated. A husband whose wife is not happy, he's shattered. He's a broken person. Her happiness is so essential to who he is, the only creature in the world. If you're a parent and your children are not happy, you're worried. You're not devastated. Only the husband, that's it, a unique creature. Now, a man marries a woman, he doesn't really become a husband. He's just a guy with a girl. He's not devastated if she's not happy. In fact, he's turned off. You're not happy? Who needs you? A husband is someone who is so identified with his wife that if she's not happy, he's not concerned. He's devastated. He's reduced to nothing. Total loser. Now, why in the world would anyone want to be a husband? Because the benefits are even greater. So if you're afraid to completely identify with a wife to where she becomes your whole essence, your whole being, then you're not going to get married. But men have always gotten married and have always been husbands. And that's why we're still here. The human race is still functioning because men do become husbands. Not so much today, because we've destroyed everything, especially men. So now men are so timid and so afraid. But we should try anyway.
What do you think the reason is behind, the attack on the idea of what a man is over the last? If you have an opinion on how long that has been as well over the last few years, but has it stretched throughout history? Is it in the last 5 to 10 years that's been the case?
It cuts both ways. The respect for women has gone down. The respect for men has gone down. We're disintegrating slowly. Everything is going down. Religiously, I would say it's because, we stopped believing in God, and after that, everything falls. You could also say, more immediate and practical, we lost respect for intimacy. In the 60s, everyone decided that intimacy is not that important, it's not that serious, it's not that heavy, it's just fun. Now we're paying the price. If intimacy is not serious, then men and women's relationships don't have to be serious. If they don't have to be serious, then we just play the game and we use each other. And as you use each other, you lose respect for each other. Everything falls apart. Children grow up in an atmosphere of cynicism. Like, I don't know why I'm married to you. I don't know what I need you for. You're just getting on my nerves. And children hear this. Their impression of life itself becomes jaded. before they even go to school. So I think a good, healthy respect for intimacy would change a lot.
Do you think people may have gone too far already, and they might, the idea of intimacy is ruined in their head, or can people, relearn a way?
They must be able to relearn it because it's essential. We can't live without intimacy. Like the statistics, as much as you can trust any statistic, most married couples don't have any intimacy at all. Maybe once a month. They're just not interested. But that's because the intimacy is not intimate. It's just an exercise that is boring and exhausting and just not interested anymore. Sex is disappearing. That's what's happening. People are more sexual, more free. Yeah, but they don't want it. They don't care for it anymore. The thought of getting involved in a sexual relationship, it's distasteful for most people, particularly the successful ones. It was kind of a challenge. The guy who can get the girl, wow. Now it's like, who cares? So we're going to become extinct. If people are not being intimate, there are going to be no babies. You won't even need birth control. We're just going to disappear like the Romans. They just faded out. They just lost interest in sex. That's it. No more children, no more Romans. Nobody killed them. They became extinct. So this guy says, I don't need God to tell me how to have sex. Is that true? But if you want intimacy, you need a little advice. Yeah, sex anybody can have. Because it's meaningless and degrading. Intimacy is ennobling. Very different. I mean, same physical activity, but a completely different experience. So we had tremendous respect for each other, partly because we had so much respect for intimacy. It wasn't so long ago a guy would never tell a dirty joke in the presence of a lady. Was that a bad thing? That was beautiful. A woman walked in, men stood up. Is that offensive to the feminist? And what was it that gave men respect for any woman? Intimacy. Intimacy was awesome. So men and women were awesome. Intimacy became just a recreational activity. Well, yeah, so we've lost all sanctity. Nothing is sacred, which means nothing is holy, which means nothing is respectable. Nothing deserves respect. That's not a life.
The change for that is personally, like, is that just something we have to take on ourselves and start to respect that, and that will spread through community, through conversation?
All right, so let's talking to teenagers, and you have to break everything down to. So I say to them, a guy takes a girl on a date. Now he expects to have some sex. She's offended. What is this game? After one date, are you kidding? After 2 dates, are you kidding? After 9 dates, say, come on. What happened here? Who decided that 3 is no good? 9? Yeah. In other words, when does a guy gain rights to intimacy with a girl? When? Never. Say, well, once we're engaged. No. How about if we're married? No. You never have the rights to a woman's intimacy. Never. It's not something you can own. Just like you can't own her life, you can't own her intimacy. Intimacy is one of these awesome things that God never relinquished. He didn't give life away. He didn't give intimacy away. Because intimacy is too important for life. So when God says how to be intimate, when to be intimate, with whom to be intimate, it's because intimacy is a divine prerogative, not a human thing. This is a terrible, again, loss of respect. I bought you 3 Cokes and some popcorn. Come on. I have rights. And that thought alone is a violation. You don't. You never do. After 30 years of marriage, you have no rights. That would really change the dynamic between husband and wife. If you enjoyed this conversation or this topic, and you're looking for more information, or you want to hear it again from another angle, there's a way to do that. And that is in this book. It's all there. Order it from Amazon. You can read it, reread it, and share it. These ideas, these messages, this approach to life, this approach to Torah, to meaning, and to morals is vital for the world today. And we need to get this message out to the entire world. It is universal, it's essential, it's indispensable. To support this effort, if you want to be a partner in this crime, check out the link and make a donation. It really helps a lot. And thank you in advance.